In recent years, the practice of semen retention has surged from the fringes of ancient tradition into mainstream wellness discussions. Often associated with increased vitality, mental clarity, and self-discipline, it is a concept that sparks both intense curiosity and considerable skepticism. At its core, semen retention is the deliberate choice to abstain from ejaculation, whether through sexual activity or masturbation, for a defined period. However, to view it merely as an act of abstinence is to miss the profound philosophy that underpins it. This article delves into the multifaceted practice of semen retention, exploring its historical context, the claimed benefits for mind and body, the limited but insightful scientific perspective, and its ultimate role as a tool for cultivating a deeper awareness of one's own energy and impulses. To understand semen retention, one must first recognize that sexual energy is one of the most potent forces within the human body. This energy drives reproduction, attraction, creativity, and ambition. It is the force that compels life forward. When a man becomes aware of this energy, rather than unconsciously releasing it, he begins to realize how deeply it influences his thoughts and actions. Awareness is the first step toward mastery. Many people live their lives reacting to impulses without ever examining them. Sexual urges arise, and they are immediately satisfied. Desires appear, and they are instantly pursued. Over time, this pattern trains the mind to operate on autopilot. Instead of being the master of his impulses, a man becomes their servant. Semen retention interrupts this automatic cycle. When a man chooses not to act immediately on sexual impulses, something interesting happens. The impulse does not disappear, but it becomes visible. He becomes aware of it as a sensation in his body, a pattern in his mind, a surge of energy that demands attention. This awareness transforms the experience. Instead of blindly reacting, he observes. Observation creates space. In that space, choice becomes possible. This is where the deeper value of semen retention emerges. It trains a man to sit with his impulses rather than obey them instantly. At first, this can feel uncomfortable. The mind may produce countless justifications and urges. Yet as awareness grows, the impulse begins to lose its power. The man realizes that he is not the urge itself. He is the observer of the urge. Many ancient traditions recognize the importance of this awareness. In yogic philosophy, sexual energy is often associated with prana, the life force that flows through the body. Taoist traditions speak of jing, a vital essence connected to reproductive energy. In these systems, awareness of one's sexual impulses is not seen as repression, but as a gateway to transformation. By becoming conscious of this energy, a person can redirect it toward other aspects of life: creativity, work, spiritual growth, and personal development. This redirection is sometimes called transmutation. Rather than allowing sexual energy to dissipate through frequent release, it is channeled into productive pursuits. Many men who practice retention report increased motivation, focus, and drive. While experiences vary, the underlying principle remains the same. Awareness of energy allows it to be directed intentionally. Consider how much mental energy is often consumed by uncontrolled desire. When awareness increases, a man begins to see how often his thoughts drift toward gratification. He notices patterns, times of day when urges are strongest, situations that trigger temptation, emotional states that intensify desire. This awareness itself is transformative. Instead of being pulled unconsciously toward stimulation, he begins to understand his internal rhythms. He becomes familiar with the rise and fall of energy within his body. Sexual desire becomes less of an overwhelming force and more of a signal, a form of energy that can be acknowledged and redirected. This process requires patience. Semen retention is not about harsh self-denial or rigid suppression. Suppression often leads to frustration and imbalance. Awareness, however, creates integration. The man does not fight his impulses. He understands them. He learns to breathe through urges, to channel energy into physical movement, creative work, meditation, or meaningful tasks. Over time, this practice strengthens self-control in all areas of life. Self-control is not merely about resisting temptation. It is about understanding oneself deeply enough to guide one's actions deliberately. When a man becomes aware of his impulses, he begins to see that many behaviors are driven by unconscious habits. For example, boredom may trigger a search for stimulation. Stress may increase the desire for quick pleasure. Loneliness may manifest as sexual craving. Awareness reveals these connections. Instead of numbing these emotions through instant gratification, a man practicing retention learns to face them directly. He recognizes that sexual impulses are sometimes masked for deeper emotional needs. By addressing the root causes, whether stress, lack of purpose, or emotional disconnection, he begins to cultivate a more balanced inner life. This level of self-awareness can lead to profound personal growth. Another important aspect of semen retention is the development of energetic sensitivity. When ejaculation is frequent, the body often experiences cycles of excitement followed by fatigue. Some men report feeling temporarily drained after release, while others may not notice significant effects. However, those who practice retention for extended periods often become more aware of subtle shifts in their energy levels. They begin to notice how sleep, diet, physical activity, and emotional states influence their vitality. Sexual energy becomes part of a broader understanding of personal energy management. This awareness can inspire healthier habits. A man who values his energy becomes more attentive to how he spends it. Late nights, excessive screen time, poor nutrition, and constant stimulation begin to feel less appealing when their impact on vitality becomes clear. Thus, semen retention often becomes part of a larger lifestyle transformation. Physical exercise is one of the most common outlets for redirected energy. When sexual impulses arise, engaging in movement, running, weightlifting, martial arts, or even a brisk walk, helps circulate energy throughout the body. Instead of remaining trapped in a mind as restless desire, it becomes fuel for strength and endurance. Creative expression is another powerful channel. Artists, writers, musicians, and entrepreneurs often speak about the link between passion and creativity. The same energy that fuels attraction can also fuel innovation. When awareness is present, this energy can be redirected into building, creating, and expressing. Spiritual practices also play a role for many practitioners. Meditation, prayer, breath work, and mindfulness deepen awareness of the inner world. These practices strengthen the ability to observe impulses without reacting automatically. Through meditation, a man learns that thoughts and urges are temporary phenomena. They arise, peak, and fade. When he watches them with calm attention, they lose their grip. This insight is powerful because it reveals a fundamental truth. Impulses are not commands. They are simply signals. By recognizing this, a man gains freedom. Relationships can also change as awareness grows. Instead of viewing others primarily through the lens of attraction, a man practicing retention may begin to appreciate deeper qualities, character, intelligence, kindness, and shared values. This shift does not eliminate attraction, but it balances it with respect and awareness. Relationships become less about impulse and more about connection. Of course, semen retention is not a universal solution or a rigid rule that must be followed by everyone. Human sexuality is complex, and healthy expression varies among individuals. The purpose of retention is not to shame natural desire, but to cultivate conscious engagement with it. In essence, the practice is about reclaiming choice. When impulses control behavior, life becomes reactive. When awareness guides behavior, life becomes intentional. This distinction is subtle but powerful that appreciate deeper qualities, character, intelligence, kindness, and shared values. This shift does not eliminate attraction, but it balances it with respect and awareness. Relationships become less about impulse and more about connection. Of course, semen retention is not a universal solution or a rigid rule that must be followed by everyone. Human sexuality is complex, and healthy expression varies among individuals. The purpose of retention is not to shame natural desire, but to cultivate conscious engagement with it. In essence, the practice is about reclaiming choice. When impulses control behavior, life becomes reactive. When awareness guides behavior, life becomes intentional. This distinction is subtle but powerful. Many men who embark on the path of semen retention eventually realize that the true benefit is not simply retaining semen. It is the awareness developed along the way. The practice becomes a mirror reflecting the patterns of the mind. It reveals how often people seek escape rather than presence. It shows how desire can dominate attention, and it demonstrates how discipline can transform energy into purpose. Over time, this awareness spreads into other areas of life. A man becomes more attentive to how he speaks, how he spends his time, and how he treats others. Impulses that once seemed irresistible become manageable. This does not mean perfection is achieved. Everyone experiences moments of weakness or distraction. Yet each moment of awareness strengthens the ability to choose differently next time. In this sense, semen retention becomes a training ground for self-mastery. It teaches patience in a culture of immediacy. It encourages mindfulness in a world of distraction. It cultivates discipline in an environment that often glorifies indulgence. Ultimately, the journey of semen retention is not about denying a fundamental aspect of human nature. It is about understanding it deeply. By becoming aware of one's energy and impulses, a man begins to see himself more clearly. He realizes that within him exists both instinct and awareness, desire and discipline, impulse and intention. The practice invites him to bring these forces into harmony. When awareness leads the way, energy becomes purposeful rather than chaotic. Impulses become signals rather than masters. And the man who once reacted automatically begins to live consciously, guided by understanding rather than habit. In the end, semen retention is less about what is withheld and more about what is discovered. It is a journey inward, a process of learning how the mind and body operate, how energy moves, and how awareness can transform impulse into intention. Through this awareness, a man does not lose his vitality. On the contrary, he learns to harness it, and in doing so, he gains something far more valuable than momentary pleasure: the clarity to direct his life with purpose and presence.